G'day punters, Nick Quinn and Shane Crawford here. Welcome to Tab's Inside 50. This week our very special guest, the man that dominated for the Essendon Footy Club, Tom Bellchambers, 136 games, 77 goals, and now a very good racehorse. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks, Quinny. Yeah, good to be here, mate. Very good racehorse and a little bit disappointing after today, mate. But, bigger and better things hopefully to come.
As sharing Anna Visto, who won very impressively recently at Flemington. The horse racing conversation seems to link all of our guests, so it's good to see that you're lifting the bar even higher.
Yeah, it's an exciting one. So myself, Jobe Watson and Kale Hooker have put a little syndicate together, and we were lucky enough to get into a good horse. And some of the we were talking about it off air, but those little wins along the way where you get to go and celebrate. And it was obviously great to be back at Flemington a couple of weeks ago, and to watch her win there was pretty special, and good group of owners as well.
What a thrill to win! Not only a very good horse, but it's winning very good races. But to win at Flemington a few weeks ago, how does that make you feel? How do you compare that against your footy days? It's hard to compare it, but it's such a thrill.
Yeah, it is, and it's interesting. I think I was probably a bit more nervous before that race than I was, some footy games in the end of my career. So you're right. It's to be honest, it's right up there. I know it's not a Group 1, but it was a Group 3, and I think you hear a lot of people have these racing stories along the way, and they might not be, all that successful. And there's a lot of ups and a lot of downs in racing. So you're right, to be able to celebrate that win at Flemington with a couple of good mates was pretty special.
And each time she adds to her CV, cha-ching, 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 you go and send it up there. I know Campbell Brown, my old teammate, he had a horse called Sweet Idea, and it was a very good horse. They sold it at the Magic Millions after its racing career for, I think, $2 million. The Queen bought it.
That's right.
Yeah. So so she, I think one of the babies, I suppose, had a run the other day for the Queen. Very first start out of the mare. So you just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get a little kickback, which is pretty good in horse racing because it doesn't always work out like that.
Correct.
What's Jobe like as an owner?
Shocking. I wasn't. It was quite funny. So I actually flew up to Sydney on the weekend, and the races got abandoned. So I've gone from Rose Hill in a corporate box to watching it at the TAB out at Laverton this afternoon. And I spoke to Hooksy after the race, and I think he watched it with Jobe, and he said he was pretty shattered after it, and pretty disappointed man. So he's very passionate about the horse, Jobe. He loves it. So yeah, he wears his heart on his sleeve, definitely.
That's what we'd like to hear. You've got to be passionate about it. Now, we're going to have a chat about your magnificent footy career today, continuing the long list of successful Tasmanians we've had on the podcast as well. So tell us about the early days. Did you always love your footy, and was it something you're always good at?
So grew up down in Tassie, and I've got two older brothers as well. So I think that's probably where my love for football came about, playing in the backyard with my brothers at a young age. And, I think football's obviously, football was amazing for me to be able to make friendships and that kind of thing along the way. And, played all my junior football down in Tasmania, down at Launceston, played my school footy down there. Probably basketball was another one for me, that I played a fair bit of basketball when I was younger as well. And then kind of timing-wise, I had a couple of injuries through basketball, and football was kind of the main priority, and that took over probably a little bit later than when it was kind of 16, 17, when it started to get really serious for me. And, lucky enough to get drafted to the Bombers as an 18-year-old, and, loved my time there, obviously.
Well, you had two older brothers, so that's great for you because you'd be so competitive in the backyard. But were you the biggest one, or eventually the biggest one?
Eventually the biggest one. Yep. It took me a while to get there, though. So, both brothers, I think, be around 6'4", 6'3" kind of thing. So
it's a big family.
It's a big family. It's certainly.
So,
a big family.
What are you? What did you get?
I'm
to?
6'7", got to 6'7". So but it's
the
mum and dad.
Spuds, I think. The Tasmanian Spuds.
There must be
something
something in the water down there, because mum and dad aren't overly tall, either of them. So. Not sure. Maybe it's the good fresh air down in Tassie.
Yes, yeah, beautiful part of the world, and Launceston's been a great home for the Hawks of recent times. But the thing I love about Tasmania is everyone's, they love their sport, and and as you said, everyone represents their state in all sorts of sports. You would have represented Tasmania in basketball, did you?
I did, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so represented Tassie in basketball, kind of under 16, under 18 level, and then I actually broke my foot playing basketball leading up to the Nationals, and missed the Nationals as a 17-year-old, I think it was, and then by the time my foot came right, kind of footy season was approaching, and then and the kind of footy took over from there really for me. But you're right, like around Tasmania, and the football being a massive thing down there in that state. I remember playing VFL as a 16, 17-year-old down there for the Devils, and that was like playing AFL. You know, like the regard that was held in down there was just amazing. And I think some of my best memories are playing footy down there and playing for the state.
Well, you've got Jack Revolt. We've had Brad Green on here, and he's spoken about his soccer days, and then obviously was very good at all sorts of, Matty Richardson. It goes on and on and on. So it must be the fresh air, or there's nothing to do. But there's plenty to do because, like seriously, you want to jump on a bike, you want to jump in the ocean, you want to play a different sport.
Yeah.
It's got everything.
Yeah, and you're right. And I think I probably took it a little bit for granted, Tassie, as well, when you're growing up down there, and I think it's always the way. But now I go back there and appreciate it so much more. It is such a beautiful spot, and you're right, it's such a rich sporting history down there. And I was a Tigers fan growing up, so Richo was kind of one of my idols, and watching him obviously do so well over in the AFL. And it's really good to see some serious talent come out of there. And
not to mention Peter Hudson, one of the all-time greats, and Doc.
Darryl
Baldock, yeah. So he was also a horse trainer too. So done a great job.
You had to correct yourself then, otherwise the Hawthorn supporters would have got very upset if you didn't mention Hudson.
Jade Rawlings, Twiggo, who's coaching, and he was very much a Burnie boy. Devonport boy. Simon Taylor, yeah, we can go on. Shane Stevenson. Do you want me to go through all the Hawthorn boys too? Grant Birchall.
Grant Birch, yeah.
Oh, the great Birch. One of the best.
But a great place, Tasmania.
Now, it does seem inevitable that Tassie will get an AFL team. What sort of challenges do you think it will face getting players to relocate from Victoria and South Australia and Western Australia? And if they came in while you were playing, would you have gone back home?
Good question. I think, to be honest, I think I definitely would have gone back home. I think there will be some challenges, obviously, in trying to get people to maybe relocate down there. And I think you've maybe seen the Gold Coast and what's kind of happening up there, and seeing players leave after 1 or 2 years. And but in saying that, I do think the state deserves an AFL team, and hopefully it's just a matter of time. But yeah, I'd be keen to jump on board, and definitely I'd head down there if I was still playing.
So Gold Coast had the Speedos and meter maids and the G strings.
Yes,
I think that was the Brisbane Bears.
Oh, well, and Gold Coast too. They always pitch it on the beach, and fair enough. So what will Tasmania bring?
Good question.
Exploration down to
Antarctica. Yeah. I'm not too sure. It might have the Eskimos and
well, you got the Jack Jumpers. Who
the Jack Jumpers are doing very well down there. But look, I'm not 100% sure what they'd endorse to stay with
just
down there.
Beautiful fresh air, as you
beautiful
said.
Fresh air.
Beautiful green countryside.
Lovely wines down there and lovely food down there. So maybe that might get a few boys down there that are into their wines. And
You need to do the tourism, Croft. Come on, help them out. Now let's talk about 2007, because you were taken in the pre-season draft in what was a super draft for the ruckman. You had Matty Cruiser going 1, Big Ben McAvoy going 9, Steph Martin also on the rookie list going to Melbourne. So there were a lot of top ruckmen in that draft. Did you compare yourself to those players in the years leading up to the draft, and where did you think you fitted in to give you some confidence that you'd be able to make it?
So that year leading up to that, I was in the AOS Academy, and so had done some work with like Cruz and Benny McAvoy. They were also in that AOS Academy, so kind of kept a close eye on how they were going, how they were travelling leading up to the draft. And I thought I was kind of around the mark to potentially be drafted. And it's a bit of a funny story, actually. Adrian Dodoro loves this story, and he tells it probably better than I do. But I thought I was a reasonable chance to get drafted. Didn't end up going my way in the national draft, and was pretty devastated after that. And then I kind of thought that was it for me. Like I didn't really see myself as a rookie or anything like that. I just thought, well, if I'm not getting drafted, I didn't get drafted. And it was probably just my thinking at the time. But Adrian got me over to Melbourne, and I was meant to train with Essendon for 2 weeks, and they kind of organised it with AFL Tasmania to get me over there and put me up with a couple of the players at the time. And I went in there and trained. The first 2 days I trained with the club, and Adrian Dodoro got me in his office and tore shreds off me, basically, telling me that I was kidding myself and I was a bit of a pisshead and not travelling as well as what I thought I was maybe, and sent me home. Like, goes, "Nah, we're done. We don't want to see you." And I was like, "Well, there goes any chance of me being."
And so, what were you doing? Like, were you misbehaving a bit, or were you just a boy coming over from Tasmania to Melbourne, going, "Right, I'm going to go out and meet a few people and have a good time"?
That's the thing. Like, it wasn't even whilst I was over in Melbourne. I think it was probably maybe back in Tassie, and I just won a flag with Launceston.
Yep.
So maybe, I enjoyed myself a little bit too much after I won the flag down there. But he got me in after 2 days of training, and he just tore shreds off me. I was like, "Mate, you're kidding yourself. You're never gonna play AFL footy." I was like, "Wow, that's a bit of a reality check for me," and sent me home.
See you later.
And that was it. Basically, there was no real communication leading up to the rookie draft or the preseason draft, and I didn't even end up. I think it was on, might have been the internet or radio back then. And I didn't even listen to it or watch it just because I thought that was it for me. And then
from some bar that you were hanging out at.
Correct. And Merv Kane at the time, he was a recruiter at Essendon as well, and he rang me and he said, "Mate, we've drafted you in the preseason draft." And Adrian tells the story now that he reckons that he knew that they were going to take me after the couple of days that I'd been there training, and he wanted to hide me from other clubs that might have been watching training or something. Anyway, but that was Adrian's story.
But that's pretty severe doing it that way.
I thought it was too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then. But I love that. I love the thinking of Adrian Dodoro.
Because then all he could have done is gone and trained at another club.
But
walked
you know
out
what?
the door. They could have
Word
said,
gets
"Mate,
out. Well, they've sent him home.
He's your shifty operator, Adrian
exactly.
Dodoro.
They've sent him home.
Yeah.
He's not very professional. So straight away, all these other clubs go, well, they've had a look at him and they've just sent him off.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's a great ploy. For years, you only have to look at Stewie Jew. He was in hiding, eating hamburgers and hanging out overseas, and then he came from nowhere. There's been a few of those stories where it's like, oh my goodness, this guy's dominating. We need him to lay low or keep him in the twos, make sure that he's not coming up into the seniors.
You end up at the Bombers, and it was an interesting time to go there because it was the first season Kevin Sheedy wasn't going to be coach in a hell of a long time. Matty Knights was the new coach.
Yes.
Did you feel this exciting change was in the air, or was there a lot of uncertainty because people were just not used to not having King Sheedy around?
I think there was probably a little bit of excitement, especially from the players at that time as well. Obviously Sheed was been such a big figure at the football club for such a long time, and a lot of those guys had only ever known Sheeds throughout their footballing career. So for Knighter to come in and a bit of a new voice and a breath of fresh air around the group. So there was a bit of excitement around the group at the time, I guess. And I think as an 18-year-old kid, you're just excited to be over in Melbourne and being in an AFL football club. So you might not probably buy into too much about what the bigger picture stuff at the time. But I think looking back, there was probably a fair bit of excitement and especially from the older guys.
And you would have gone up and said, was a Richmond supporter, loved the 33 when he was dominating and kicking those left foot goals, and that would have got you in the good books?
Yeah, correct. And I love the I remember seeing the footage of him coming off the ground with the blood.
Yes.
Liberatory.
Yep.
That's right. I was
accidentally elbowed him in a contest.
Yeah, exactly.
20 times.
So, as an 18-year-old kid and Knighter's first year, and I got along with him quite well.
You got Kevin Sheedy gone out of the club. You got greats like James Hird, but you had the great Matty Lloyd. Mr. Serious. Get his little routine and have some momentum. Throw the grass up. So what was it like? Starting out and having someone like Matty Lloyd, one of the all-time greats, good fellas. What was it like at Essendon?
Yeah, so amazing. I mean, Lloydie and Scotty Lucas and Dustin Fletcher and these types of guys. I mean, you walk in on a Monday morning and, what the locker room's like, Croft. It's, sometimes it's story time or whatever. And these guys...
Who was the best at that at Essendon? Who was someone that just sort of... You just look over and made you laugh, or just really gave that sort of release.
Yeah,
which is really important at a footy club.
Andrew Welsh was probably a hard one to go past. He was always always good for stories and that locker room camaraderie and that kind of thing. I think him and Mark McVeigh were probably, I mean, they're two of the main blokes that you think of, especially, and Woosha kind of took me under his wing a little bit as well. So, those kind of guys, Lloydie, Lucas, those guys you speak about as well. Like, I mean, you're just a kid and you're an 18-year-old, and these guys are superstars of the game. And 2 weeks ago I was working on roofs back in Tassie and that kind of thing. Just finished high school, and now I'm going to training every day with these superstars of the game. So, you're probably a little bit mind blown about like being able to go to work with them and call them your teammates and that kind of thing. And then, obviously you realise pretty soon or pretty quickly that that's your job now, and that's what you get paid to do, which is an amazing thing, I think.
And as they retire and move on, it must blow your mind because Andrew goes on and is extremely successful at buying land and just, has hit the jackpot there. And then you see McVeigh in the coaching box. So that must just, open your eyes to, okay, footy's here, got to make the most of it. But there is a big life out there as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think, he's been amazing for me throughout my footy career and then post-football as well. So he's obviously doing amazing things in the property world and land development and that kind of thing. So, but he was always one thing that I think I learned off Woosha was I don't think I've seen anyone that could work a room like him when he walk into these functions and that kind of thing. And sometimes when you're playing footy, these functions and corporate gigs that you have to go to that are part of your contract for whatever reason, Woosha always told me, like sometimes you don't want to be there maybe, or you might have had a long day at training or for whatever reason, but those people in that room can really, be a bit beneficial to you. And if you take the time to get to know these people that, exactly what you're saying, life after footy, it is, a big eye-opener. So, and networking and that kind of thing through AFL, you're really lucky that you get to meet some really successful people and people that do want to help you as well. So, to be able to make the most of that, Woosha was very good at what he did there.
Round 11, you get the call up to play your first game. Unfortunately, it was a tough night for the Bombers coming up against Hawthorn. Buddy Franklin kicked a lazy 9 goals. What do you remember apart from Buddy from that night?
You starting the ruck?
I started on the bench. Hilly, actually no. Not that you remember any, but I was looking at you like you might have that down in front
once you start playing.
I'm trying to. Yeah, it was a bit of a blur. I reckon I might have actually started in the ruck, and I think Hilly did his hamstring on the Thursday or something, and the main training on Thursday, and I certainly wasn't ready to be playing AFL football, I don't think. And I was actually rucking against big Robbie Campbell and Simon Taylor at the time, so they were quite big boys as well. Robbie Campbell was a big fella, so
yeah, Robbie used his body really well. He couldn't jump high, but
very crafty with his body.
He was a lot better than if you watch a lot of the tapes.
Yeah, he was.
And big Simon, he was arms and legs and elbows everywhere.
He was a big triangular. So no, I mean, obviously an amazing experience. I got to fly mum and dad and my 2 brothers over to watch the game. So apart from the scoreline not being, going our way, it's just an unbelievable experience. And I still remember being physically ill before the game, and just being so nervous and that kind of thing. And, it was just an amazing experience. I think it was about 80,000 at the MCG. But we lost by, as you said, 80 odd points.
What stood out from a game perspective? Was it faster than you thought, more physical, or just everything?
Probably a combination of everything. I played a lot of senior football down in Tassie against kind of bigger bodies and older blokes growing up, which I think really helped me with my football. And obviously being a ruckman, I might have been 17 years old, 16 years old, rucking down there against kind of 30-year-olds. So you kind of get that experience to ruck against more mature age, more physical guys, I guess. And then, I think the speed of it, certainly for me, mate, as I don't have too much speed myself, is probably that was the biggest one for me to try and pick up. And then for me as well was just kind of trying to deal with my nerves and that kind of thing. And then as you go on in your career, understanding that you belong at the level and gaining confidence through that. So
the year Jobe Watson dominated, you were the ruckman, and you were pretty much the reason.
That's what I think as well, Croft. And
which obviously put him in a position to win the Brownlow medal, and he still should bloody have the Brownlow medal. Correct. When you think about it. But yes, because I was in a similar situation with Paul Salmon, and he said, mate,
Fish.
I hit the ball to you, which when you look back, yeah, that's fairly true.
I think over in the NFL, what's the quarterback buys their
Oh yeah,
the
did
right
he buy
tackle.
you something?
No,
that's what
I don't they buy their right
Yes.
tackles Rolexes and cars and that kind
well,
of
the
thing.
ones
so,
that they think are important for
well,
their game.
that's it. And I remember I was actually in Miami at the time when Jobe won the Brownlow. I gave him a call and I just said, yeah, exactly what you were saying. I'll send you my address.
Can you
mate.
upgrade my hotel, please?
Yeah, correct. Maybe
from the backpackers to the five-star
Maybe
hotel.
a business class flight home or something like that. But I'm still waiting for that. So yeah.
I'm sure it'll come.
Now, you mentioned your nerves before your first game. When did you feel comfortable at AFL level?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it probably took me 5-6 years to really kind of feel comfortable and understand that my best footy was good enough and capable enough to be playing at that AFL level. I think I was in and out of the team. I think might have been 2013. I think I played 18 games that year. And I think that was probably that continuity in playing games week in, week out. But I think probably even still for a year or two after that, I probably really started to feel comfortable and understand what I could do and what I could bring to the team, and kind of that was good enough, like I didn't have to go out there and try and, win the game by myself, which is, I think probably what some people do at the time. But, I think probably my 5th, 6th year around that mark, I started to feel really comfortable, and Simon Goodwin was the midfield coach, who, I think still to this day is probably one of the best coaches I've ever had, just in got the best out of me, Goody. So
Why did he get the best out of you? Was it just the relationship, the connection?
I think, probably had a lot to do with the connection, and, it's probably no understanding why, he's gone on and been a successful senior coach, and, you see these things in the media that he was having a beer with his players or whatever. And
outstanding.
yeah, exactly. And, I think most people that understand footy and would say that is outstanding, and that is how you do build relationships, and Goody was that kind of guy where you could actually, you could have a laugh with him off the field, but once that football was bounced, or when you were doing anything kind of one-on-one football-wise, it was dead serious, and and he would kind of crack me between the eyes if I had to be, and that's how he got a response out of me, and I think he just kind of knew how to make his players tick, and it's good to see him go on and be successful at Melbourne.
You've got to be careful as a coach connecting with the players, because at the Alistair Clarkson situation, when Buddy was having a bit of fun over in Vegas, and he said, no, I need to go over there and take control, otherwise go and join him for a drink. He turned up. Buddy wasn't happy, so Buddy took off to Sydney. He said, I'm going to a different club. So you got to pick your timing, Quinny. You got to make sure you get it right.
There is a balance.
I'd love to hear some of your Buddy stories off here. I think, Croft, they'd be quite entertaining.
I don't have any.
Now, Tom, when you got to the Bombers, it was a challenging period for them. Matty Knights had just taken over, and after a few years, unfortunately, he was replaced. He had a record of 25 wins, 41 losses, and 1 draw. The Essendon faithful, they were not very patient with him. It was always going to be a very, very tough gig to replace Sheeds, and he probably felt the full brunt of it. Yeah,
you're right. And, from all reports, Nida was the VFL coach before he took over the senior coach role, and was, the boys really loved him. His work that he did at VFL level, and, I think you're right to try and come in after Sheeds, who's just this monumental figure in AFL football. It's going to be really hard to follow that, and Essendon being a big powerhouse club that they are, if the results aren't adding up, then something has to change, and unfortunately, probably for far too long now, the results haven't added up. So it's unfortunate, but hopefully the title change soon.
And if there's one man that's more loved at Essendon than Kevin Sheedy, it was the bloke that took the coaching job next, James Hird. What was it like when you found out he'd be your new coach? And I dare say the supporters had an extra spring in their step.
Yeah, the golden child. Once they knew that he was back on board, I think I was living around Essendon at the time, or in Moonee Ponds there or somewhere, and I think 99% of people just walked around with a smile on their face that they knew Hirdy was coming back, and they knew obviously Bomber came back in the end as well. So it's obviously well documented what Hirdy went through and what the club went through over the years, but Hirdy as well. So it's also great to see him back in footy up at GWS, and
He's with your mate, McVeigh.
With Spikey up there, yeah. Spikey must have got him up there, so he's helped him out there, which
What are
is
those
good.
two getting up to?
Who knows? Who knows?
After hours, be like just hanging out in Sydney.
And I'm sure
Everyone just let them go.
that's probably why Spikey's got him up there to help him out after hours. But no, it's Hurdy was amazing as well. He really was. He came in and basically put an unbelievable team around himself as well. As I said, Goody, Matty Egan as well. Brendan McCartney was there. There was some really good Sean Wellman, who was, you speak to the backline guys, and they're probably one of the they rank him up there as one of the best defensive coaches they've had as well. So Hurdy had some really, really good people around him, and obviously what happened. But I think if we didn't probably go through that stuff, then I think that was obviously probably the most successful time period that I played in my career with those guys.
It was a big shock, wasn't it, when he was announced as coach? Because was he doing stuff at Foxtel at the time, or he was doing stuff in that space? And obviously he hadn't done an apprenticeship.
Yeah. But
obviously has a great football knowledge. He was a wonderful player, but has got a real great view on the game and the way that he wants it played, and backing in the good players and putting the good players in the good spots, which, obviously started working because you started winning a lot of games. And I remember that you had this real connection and you were playing for the coach for a long time, which, that was something new that was brought to Essendon, which I hadn't seen for a while.
Yeah, you're right. And I think, and that's exactly right. Hurdy was kind of, had really good thoughts about the game and the way it should be played. And I guess the team that he got around him and to help him out was probably really what drove that as well. And playing for Hurdy, yes, but playing for, as I spoke about Goody before, like the assistant coaches that he had around him at the time were just, a lot of them gone on to senior coach and that kind of thing as well. And I mean, Macca went to the Bulldogs, Brendan McCartney went to the Bulldogs, and probably didn't reap the rewards that he put in at the Bulldogs, I don't think, as well. But he was an amazing coach as well. These guys were really good teachers of football. So, I mean, you're right, when you say we were playing for the coach, I think that camaraderie and that group that we had at that time was something really special. And unfortunately, we probably didn't go on to do what we should have done and win finals footy and playing big games and win big games. But it was certainly a special time for me to be able to play under Hurdy and play under these really good guys. And yeah.
And so, what about when all the turmoil happened with Essendon? Because when things were starting to unfold, it was like all the other players from other clubs were like, "Nah, we're fully supportive of the players," and even the AFL was supposedly very supportive. But then it just turned into this just bigger saga, and I really felt for you as players. I really felt for the supporters. How do you get through that?
That was such a unique experience about going through something like that you can just never prepare yourself for, or never think you're going to be in that situation. So I think those 30-odd guys that were in that situation, that's kind of all we had, really, you know what I mean? I mean, the support from other players and other teams and that kind of thing really was amazing. So I think that helped, but it was probably the guys that were going through it at the same time that really understood what each individual was kind of going through and how each individual was struggling or coping with it. So for me, it was just about surrounding myself with those guys and kind of trying to help them. And I mean, we had Jobe Watson, who was just an unbelievable leader at that time and took us through, you know, the shit show that it was, really. And to have someone like him that's come out and, you know, just unbelievable leadership skills, I think that was probably a big help. But yeah, for me, it was just kind of making sure I did stay connected with my teammates. And I mean, they were kind of really the only ones that knew what was going on and knew how we were feeling at the time. So surrounding yourself with good people and yeah, that was probably what helped me through it.
And even I know myself, if I'm put in a situation where you got fitness staff and coaches saying, this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to do it, this is, you know, it's all to help us, you know, to recover from an advantage point of view. It's all above board. This is what's happening. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
100%. Yep. What do I do? Take this tablet. No worries. I'll do that. I'll do whatever, you know, yeah, and you're just trusting these people. So as a player, you must have been frustrated and angry when reflecting at times. But you're in a situation where we'd all put up our hands and go, yeah, we'll do whatever as long as we think it's all above board. That's what you're telling us.
Yeah,
we're doing it.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, it's so hard. I mean, there was definitely times when you do get angry and you do, you look back now and there's certainly times where it was more difficult than other times. But I think you're exactly right. I mean, you're put in these situations where we were a group and we, the leadership group at the time, made sure that everything was ticked off by all the doctors and all WADA and ASADA and everything like that. And I think that's all you can do as players, really. We were put in a position where exactly what you're saying. You're told that everything's okay that you're taking and what have you. Then to find out that potentially it's not, then you do get disappointed and you do want to find out what happened, really.
Yep, where did it go wrong? And I have had a little bit to do with James Hird over the last few years, and it's been great to see him sort of come back to being the James Hird that we sort of all knew. Obviously, went to amazing lows and then to work his way through. But just before he sort of finished up and moved on and whatever, he used to get on his bike and he'd ride from Toorak, that side of town. He'd ride out to even the new training venue out near Tullamarine on his bike, because that was when he could get 1 hour
bit of a release
of just him concentrating on riding his bike. But then he got caught in the tram tracks once and
off his bike,
broke his leg, and then he got hit by a mother who was driving the kids to school.
That's right.
I said,
Put the bike
I
away.
think you need to retire from the bike. But someone like that who, he's just so supportive of the players, and he went to war for the guys. But to see someone like that who virtually wore a Superman cape, how did that make you feel when you knew, he was there?
Yeah, mate, like exactly right. When you've got someone like Hirdy and, as I spoke about Jobe before, these two guys at the head of the organisation, I guess you feel a bit more comfortable when you've got those kind of guys around you, and they do make it a little bit easier to see what Hirdy went through, to see how hard he did fight for us and that kind of thing throughout that whole saga, I guess, is it just speaks volumes about the person that Hirdy is, and that's why when you see the lows that he did get to, it's really hard to see, and because he was fighting for us more than anyone, and and Jobe as well. So to see these guys kind of have things taken away from them and have the lows that they did is really hard to see, because they're such good people. So and they're your mates as well. Although Hirdy was a easy coach, but when you go through something like that we went through at the time, I do think it obviously brings you closer together, and that bond does grow because you're the individuals going through it and no one else is going through it. So it's shit to see what's happened, and that's why it's great to see Hirdy back in football now, and Jobe's doing really well obviously as well, so it's good to see. Yeah,
they're charging on, which is a great thing. All the players are that were involved in that, which is super. But he also said that for a whole year, 365 days, he used to live in a 2-story house, and he'd get out of bed and he'd hop in a shower, which would be on the second level, and he could move his blinds and he could look down on his lawn, and for the whole year he would see 30, 40, 50 media waiting for him. And that's how he would start his day for the year. So what about yourself? Was the media sniffing around? Were they chipping away? Were they,
Yeah, definitely.
Were they annoying?
Yeah.
Because most of the time, me being on the other side of the fence now, we can be all very annoying at times if we're trying to get a story or trying to get an understanding of what's going on.
It was just such a strange time, mate, like that we'd be rocking up to training, and Kale Hooker and I lived together at the time as well, so there was times when we had cameras and that out the front of the house, and it was hard to understand how to take it. And I remember, you laugh at it now, but I remember going to and playing a practice match. We were out at the new facility out at Tullamarine, and they tried to lock the gates and try and keep the media out, which doesn't really work. There's this fence that you can see through and see everything anyway. And but I remember 2 helicopters being above the ground when we're training, and it was just like, what's happening? This is just a genuine circus. And some of the times when we were training at Windy Hill and you'd rock up there and the media circus that was out the front was just like, is Justin Bieber at training today, or what's going on? Like it was just unbelievable. So, and I think that probably, after that whole thing, I know myself, like I looked at the media differently. Whether that's right or wrong, it's probably I'm not too sure. But I mean, I was probably a bit shitty about how aggressive they were at times and what they were reporting and that kind of thing.
And you players were handcuffed too.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You can't really talk much about it.
You can't really talk. And I remember after we did sit out for the year and coming back and getting media requests, and I'd be like, no, I don't want to do it. Which is which is understandable. But I mean, I look back now and it's everyone's got a job to do at the time, don't they? So it's such a unique situation to go through, such a strange situation to go through, to be honest with you. But yeah, some of the media and reporting and was pretty full on at the time.
It was mind blowing. So when you say you're being papped out the front of your house, did you think, geez, I'm going to have to make sure that next time I don't go out my jocks to put the bins out late at night? You'd be always thinking, if I've got someone waiting out the door, I've got to be, ready for this.
Correct.
If it was your single days, because you used to live in Port Melbourne, didn't you?
I'll do a bit of a story. Yeah, but yeah. That's right. So we obviously, there was a few decision days throughout the whole. Well, there's about 50 decision days throughout the whole saga in the end, but there was one day when we obviously knew there was going to be a lot of media around one of the decisions. I'm not even sure which one it was now, but I remember saying to Hooksy, we probably should go and make sure we're looking quite sharp and dress up. And I think we went and bought a new outfit at the time and worked out all right because we ended up being, I think, front page of the Herald Sun, Hooksy and I walking out of this establishment. But
you were the only two looking very well dressed.
That's
and presented.
It. And I think
Which is your modelling day? Because have you done some modelling? Is that right?
No, Croft, no.
No, hang on. No,
where's this going?
This is where I'm going to challenge you because last week I got a call and they said Tom Bellchambers is going to be on the podcast. I said, beautiful. And I was actually in a hotel where I was staying in Melbourne, and I flicked on the TV and up pops Tom Bellchambers doing an ad of some sort, or in the background of this nightclub style bar downstairs for the hotel. And I'm like, hang on, this is amazing how life works. So there's a hotel just down the road. There you were. Popped up there. So
news to me, mate. So I should be getting royalties from this.
You should be. So surely you know about this. You're on my screen. And this rolling ad the whole time. There's Tom again.
Tom's looking at me.
You're taking the
no,
serious?
I'm 100%.
Right, Tom's looking at me right now. For those that can't see, looking at me saying, "Is he serious or is he taking the mickey?"
Exactly.
And I never have any idea, so I don't know.
You know modelling, but you used to, go along to different functions and events. You'd always pop along to a few. Did you know the bar I'm talking about?
I don't. No. I've literally got no idea.
Just step in here for just a sec, just to pivot to the left.
I will be following.
Well, I know what you look like, and it was definitely you.
Definitely me.
Yeah.
Tom, tell us about when the verdict came down.
Tell us about the bar.
Tell us about when you found out that you and a lot of your teammates would not be participating in the 2016 season.
So we were in a hotel in St Kilda. I think it was the old Novotel, which they just knocked down and built a big complex there. But we're in the Novotel down there, and it was over in Sweden, the announcement. So it was like 6 o'clock in the morning Melbourne time here. So we had to I think there was still 8 or 9 of us playing for Essendon at the time. The rest of the guys had either moved on or what have you. So there was still 9 of us playing for Essendon at the time. And I remember getting up at 5:30 and driving down to St Kilda to just thinking, this is so bizarre. Like what's happening? And going into the conference room in this hotel in Melbourne, and being 6 o'clock in the morning, and they read the readings or the findings out, and they had to translate it because it was in a different language, and our lawyers going out of the room, and they were still extremely confident that everything was going to be fine at the time. So, and we were too, and and then the lawyers coming back into the room and just the look on their face was just, it told us everything. They almost didn't even really have to tell us what had happened, and to see grown men break down in tears in the room was pretty confronting. But I mean, it was a bit of a whirlwind. Like, you look back and it was just all happened like that, I guess. Yeah.
Did you cry? Were you?
I got the European summer in.
No, were you crying as well in there? Like,
no,
pretty emotional.
It was super emotional and super confronting. But I wasn't. I didn't break down. But a few boys did, and I can understand. Exactly. You're getting footy taken away from you. It doesn't feel right. It's not right, and so it was certainly a somber mood in that room, and I guess no one really knew how to take that news, and we weren't expecting it obviously either. So to be hit with that was pretty full on. And
so what goes through your head then? Hang on, I got a year off. What am I going to do? Am I going to travel? Am I going to go to Milan and work on my modelling? What am I going to do? So what goes through your head there, or was the club trying to tell you that you need to be around?
It was just
in Melbourne.
No one could be prepared for it. No one was prepared for it. The club wasn't really prepared for it. I remember leaving training the day before the decision and having a bit of a laugh with a few of the boys that weren't in that group at the time, saying, we'll see you next year, or we'll see, But it ended up actually being like that, and it wasn't a funny joke, obviously, at the time. But it was just, we didn't really know. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't obviously expect that decision, so we weren't planning for it. We didn't know what was next. There were so many uncertainties. We weren't allowed back to the club from that day onwards, basically. We didn't know whether there was any contact allowed with anyone at the club, or how that would all work. So it was just a bit of a shit show, really, for the first kind of week or two, and let everyone try and digest this information that we're not going to have footy for 12 months. And the club are really good. They obviously gave everyone as much space as they needed to try and divulge information, I guess. And then we had to work out for ourselves really what the year looked like, and that's when I speak about Jobe Watson being an unbelievable leader. I think there was, as I said, about 8 or 9 of us still at the club at the time who it directly affected with a football sense. But having someone like him to, I guess, guide you through what was happening was really special and really amazing to have him there. But it was almost, it was, I don't know, it was just like we didn't know what to expect or what to have planned. But we ended up having a training program in place, I guess, which was kind of optional for most.
And mentally hard.
Certainly mentally hard.
You're training for
nothing.
For what?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the future? Where is it all going to go?
Yeah, exactly.
So what did you do during that time?
Yeah, so initially, kind of when that decision came down, I took off to WA with a couple of mates and that I was playing footy with at the time as well. So took off over there, and Cale Hooker's family's got a vineyard over there, so we went over there and we actually did that vintage and picked the grapes and drank a lot of wine over in the vineyard. But it was kind of get out of Melbourne initially. Still try and surround myself with a couple of my mates that were going through it. As I said, I thought that was quite helpful for me.
Yep.
And then I guess it was trying to, all right, let's figure out what's next. And we, the 8 or 9 of us at the time that were still playing, we agreed to meet in Croatia in July that year and spend a bit of time together over there. And that was one of the most amazing experiences I've had in my football career.
Well, they say it's a beautiful place to visit.
Certainly a beautiful place to visit, Croatia, in that time of the year, which you don't normally get to probably experience playing football the European summer. So, we were tried to make the best of a shit situation, really, and we got away as a group, and and that you speak about the media. I remember that year we were over there and we were on a boat, and the boys were in pretty good nick by then. They'd done a bit of training for the European for the European summer. So that was our motivation there for a little bit. But I think, I don't know, social media. Someone put a photo up of the boys on the boat, and that was front page of the Herald Sun the next day. And we're us over there, and we're just trying to get away from everything that was happening back here.
You're allowed to go on a boat.
Yeah, exactly.
You're allowed to go overseas.
Yeah, exactly. And then, we were.
I think that was really important that you connected, that you stayed together, and everyone going through the same situation, because you can bounce off each other. You can try and joke about it and laugh about it. And some as much as you don't want to, because it's like, mate, it's angry. Like,
but some of the times that was the best way to. If you don't laugh, you'll cry, literally. So I mean, that's why for me it was certainly beneficial to have these blokes around me, and even your family and that kind of things. They want to be talking about it, and they might not necessarily know the ins and outs, but everyone. It was the biggest story in football, obviously, at that time. So everyone wanted to know, and everyone wanted to add their opinions, and which is understandable because it's such a big story. But yeah, you're right. The people that really mattered, and people that really understood what was happening were those 9 or 10 boys, or the 30, 35 odd blokes but the 9 or 10 boys that we were together with at the time. And without a doubt, mate, if I didn't have those guys around me at that time, I doubt whether I would have played football ever again.
And that's the other thing that James Hird said, that when and that's why he's still connected with Bomber Thompson, is because whenever it was going on, you'd face the players, you face the media. This is towards the end of the coaching setup, and then he'd put on a brave face, and then he'd walk behind closed door, and he'd go into a room with Mark Thompson, and he just said we would look at each other going, what is going on? And they just felt alone. Yeah. Those two just felt like they were trying to shoulder everything. So what you've done there is they've gone off and still tried to stay connected, which is really important, because you've been through this situation with your close mates. So I think that's probably the best way to move forward, which sounds like you come up with a great solution. And Croatia, hey, bucket list tip.
Exactly. It was good fun.
Now, did the club give you and the other players a chance to leave? And if so, why did you decide to stay?
The club did. I mean, the club did. They gave I think my situation was a little bit. I'd just come off pretty serious ankle injury and that kind of thing, and I kind of rushed back from that and played kind of maybe 15, 16, and I wasn't playing the best of football at the time, and I'd had 4 or 5 surgeries on my ankle, and we didn't really have. Paddy Ryder had gone, he'd left, and we didn't really have too many other ruckmen on the list at the time, so I was kind of probably pushing myself to try and play each week and that kind of thing, and I was probably doing more damage to myself in terms of my ankle, and so my football leading up to that year off probably wasn't where I wanted it to be, and it was kind of a strange one. I mean, that year off probably came at a good time for me in terms of being able to get back to playing football and give my body a rest and that kind of thing, and so it was quite interesting in that regard. That, I mean, if that year off didn't come, then I'm not sure I would have even maybe been offered another contract, or I certainly wasn't playing the footy that I wanted to at the time. So in that regard, it actually, the year off, was maybe a blessing in disguise for me. But I mean, I think I had something to prove to come back to the football club. Just to this day, I still believe that I did nothing wrong throughout that time at the football club. So, and I mean, the supporters were really loyal and really passionate and quite helpful for me. So, Hooksy and these guys are really close mates with. I mean, Hooksy probably could have gone anywhere, any club in the AFL at that time. He'd come off a best and fairest in all Australian year, so he was quite the opposite to me. So I think he had a fair few clubs throwing a fair bit of coin at him as well, and being a WA boy to go back home. So for me it was kind of, to be honest with you, I didn't really have that many other opportunities and other clubs coming at me because I wasn't probably in great form. But I know a lot of the boys did, and the club obviously were trying to re-sign us, and as they should. But my experience was Essendon gave me my opportunity, and loyalty's a big thing for me. So for me, it wasn't a really hard decision to stay at the footy club.
Now, I know it didn't end the way you would have wanted, but how special was it when the team all came back together to make finals again the next season and all go up to Sydney, and absolutely thousands of Bomber supporters went up? You had 44 hit-outs, if you don't mind. So that must have been a very special lead-up. And I know, obviously, the game result didn't go as you wanted, but the lead-up, it must have been very rewarding after everything you'd been through as a team.
Yeah, it was. It was special. And, throughout that period, I remember some almost games that they felt like finals. I remember there was the West Coast one over in West Coast where maybe Jobe kicked a goal late in the game or something. That game, there was some significant games that really stood out. And
Fremantle, was it Fremantle? It was amazing. For what you players had been through, and James heard the win there about the huge question mark moving forward. Yeah. That, to me, like, sides don't do that. Yeah. That are dead and buried and not sure about their future. You know, that for me was an incredible win, and I do remember Jobe Watson was on fire and leading from the front. Yeah,
so some of those games and the final that you speak about as well, you're sitting on a boat in Croatia, and you don't know whether you're going to play AFL footy again, and then you come back and 12 months later you're playing in a final up in Sydney. So you do have to cherish those moments along the way, and they were pretty special, although the result didn't go our way that night. You do. I think when footy gets taken away from you, you don't take it for granted, and that's certainly something that I learned in that year off, not to take it for granted. And I think that probably also made me a better person, a better player when I came back, and cherished it.
How did Dustin Fletcher keep fronting up throughout his career? It was quite incredible.
Yeah.
The amount of games that he played and the role that he had, and he had some real go on him too. Don't worry, he loved whacking a few, and it was all accidental. But he used to get reported a lot, and there's no accidental about it. But like playing with players like that, he used to. We asked him on the podcast about getting to training about an hour early, and getting his toast and his coffee in the paper and having the radio on, and that's how he'd start the day in the car park for an hour, just having some time to himself.
Every day, and I remember he used to drive this old Pajero to training, and you'd rock in every morning, and if you were there early for physio or whatever, Fletcher'd be sitting in the car having his coffee and his paper, and he just nodded the head, but and that was Fletch, and he obviously...
It worked.
It worked, and, Fletch never entered the gym in a gym session whatsoever over my 10 years that I played with him. He wasn't about weights, Fletch. He knew what he was good at, and he stuck to that. And
it's incredible not to do weights when you look at some of the full forwards that he played on. Jason Dunstall, Gary Ablett Senior, he would have played on Wayne Carey at some stage. The list goes on and on. So to think of a player, I don't do weights. I'll just get my long arm in there when I need to, and hopefully use my speed. It's quite incredible.
And that was just Fletch. He knew what he was good at, and he was unbelievable at it, obviously, as well, to do it for so long. I doubt whether we'll see too many more players play that amount of games and be that successful for that long over their career. So Fletch was a ripper. He loved to talk too, didn't he? Loved the talk. Yeah. Loved story time in the locker room as well, Fletch. So he was one of the first ones that pull up a seat. And
he's a bit like Matty Lloyd. Matty Lloyd loves a story, doesn't he?
Loves a story, Lloydie.
So I can see Fletch and Lloydie just sitting there like two little kids,
kids,
waiting for the story to unfold.
That probably kept them young throughout their career as well. And the antics of what happened on the weekend with the young boys and that kind of thing. So Fletch loved a good story, loved a beer, obviously away from footy, and just a ripping bloke, Fletch, as well.
You speak about it might have been a mini blessing in disguise, having the year off for your body. The final 2 years of your AFL career, you played 20 games in 2018 and 16 in 2019. You're still playing footy. Did you go with a bit of petrol in the tank, or was that something you wanted to do deliberately?
No, not really. It was more... I think my body was probably a little bit shot towards the end of it as well. I mean, that year off did give it a bit of a reprieve, and I did feel better when I came back. And I'd had kind of 4 or 5 surgeries over a 2-year period on the same ankle, and so to have that 12 months off, that kind of helped that, and I was able to feel a little bit better. And then towards the last couple of years of my career, it was almost the same thing, like we didn't have too many other ruckmen on the list at the time. Sammy Draper was coming through. He hadn't probably come on yet. He was still quite young. So, I definitely got to a point in my career where physically, I probably couldn't stand up against, the other rucks and that kind of thing, and I just couldn't do. My body probably wouldn't allow me to do what I could do when I was younger, and
it's faster than ever, isn't it?
Certainly faster than
fast.
ever. I remember coming back from that year off, and it's like, wow, have I missed 10 years of footy, or like that's what you think. But
Manning up went out the window, so all of a sudden it was rapid fires. Every direction you go, it's just someone's flying at you. Even the couple of games so far this year, it's incredible how quick they are with handballing around a stoppage, getting the ball moving, and how quickly they're reacting. It's gone to a next level.
Yeah, it's you're right. It's crazy the speed of it now, and that was a bit of a telltale sign for me, especially late in my career, just how quick that game was. And I was kind of, I guess, really happy and content that I'd given everything from my body point of view, and it's good. Don't get me wrong, it's still good to be having a kick at local level, but it's I'm certainly not moving like I used to at AFL level.
Well, Tom, we've loved having a chat to you today, and we wind up with a few rapid-fire questions. And this is where Croft can come into his own sometimes and take these things in.
You're getting married soon, aren't you?
True.
Yes. Well, tell us about your wife to-be.
The beautiful Olympia. So,
who's just been on Dancing with the Stars. And she's still on there, isn't she? Yes, I think she's still on.
Yes.
Yep,
she's still on. So.
No, actually, she went out the other day.
She went out last night. I think she went out last night. I didn't know.
I wasn't sure if I was watching a replay or what's going on.
No, you're right. She did. She, I think she was eliminated last night. So
that puts pressure on your wedding dance.
I'm very nervous.
So, because she's an amazing dancer.
I've got 2 left feet, mate, and
then
it's not going to be
2 months later. You're getting married, mate. Tom, you need to step up. You need to get some lessons. Or do a lift. Do a dirty dancing lift.
Exactly.
Something like that.
I think that's my go. Try and do a lift or a spin or a twirl.
It's like
or
you're
something
stressing out about it.
Well,
Mate, there's pressure.
So she wants the dance lessons and she wants to make it a routine. But
you got to go with it.
Yeah, you do. I've learnt that pretty quickly, that when it comes to the wedding, you just got to go with it. So I'm learning along the way. But yeah, stay tuned for the footage of the dance, the first dance.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
We look forward to that.
Yes.
You know how I got out of mine?
What's that?
The Macarena.
Oh, really?
Got everyone to do it. Yep.
That was your wedding dance?
Stroke of genius.
Oh, my goodness.
Well,
Stroke of genius.
You've done the Macarena as your wedding dance.
That's amazing.
You must have a good missus to do that.
I've got a Greek fiance, so she's the Greek dancing. So they're not great dancers, the Greeks. So they get everyone up in a circle, and
don't they throw the plates as well?
Throw the plates. I can do that.
Is that happening? Will that be happening at your wedding?
I reckon that'll be happening.
I've been to a couple of weddings where the plates just start going. I'm like, oh, that was a nice plate. Anyway, they just start smashing them. They're everywhere. But no, I love that. And obviously, your Croatian friends will be coming over.
A lot of them will be making the trip over for the wedding, I reckon.
Coming over on the boat, and the one you were hanging out on, or those podiums you were dancing at those nightclubs.
Unbelievable time.
Good memories.
Best spray you ever heard?
Best spray I ever heard? Bomber Thompson to Michael Hibberd. Michael Hibberd played on Boomer Harvey, and I think Boomer just literally absolutely towed him up, and it might have been the Tuesday or the Wednesday after that, and it was just Bomber could give a really, really good spray at the best of times, and he just absolutely went through Hibbo, and Hibbo, you can't really do much when you're copping such a full-on aggressive spray, but and it was in front of everyone. It was just, I remember everyone on the track just looking, going,
jeez,
wow,
that
was yeah.
What was some of the stuff he was producing?
I just remember Bomber could look through you, and Bomber was a scary man, and he would, some of his sprays were pretty good. I remember we got one night where we'd been out at motel actually, and back in the day, and one of the players, I think it was off a 6-day break, and we probably shouldn't have been out drinking, and we'd gone out and had a beer, and one of the players had done his calf that day, and he got us in the room and sat us down, and he said, "Tell me who was there," and I said, "I was there by myself." And,
it's not as though you can hide in the corner.
So that's hard.
Yeah, someone like yourself. I can hide under the table, but you definitely can't.
But he tried to get it out of me who was there, and I wouldn't tell him, and that was pretty scary as well.
And you stood fat?
I stood fat.
Oh, well done.
Mate, you're seriously dicing with death there.
Yep.
And he was probably out there at the same time.
Well,
Bomber Thompson. He was probably looking at
He
you
knows-
across the bar.
He knows he was
He's
there
like,
because he was
"Hang on,
there. Exactly.
I told him not to come out, and they're here.
He was there.
Jimmy Bartel told us that story. I think they were at motel as well.
Yeah.
And he was dancing and saw the Cats boys there and danced
Bomber.
away and turned around.
What? And saw Bomber Thompson?
Yeah.
No way.
Not surprised.
That's unbelievable.
Best sledge you ever heard?
Best sledge.
The thing about Michael Hibbard, though, he got towed up, he got ripped in by Bomber Thompson, then he goes to Melbourne on 600-700 a year.
Yeah, wins a premiership.
Yeah.
So
Play poorly and move on.
yeah, best sledge I've ever heard.
Well, Adam Cooney was
Nothing's
good on the
coming
lip,
to
wasn't he?
Coons was good. Coons was pretty quick.
He's a character. We like him. He would have added a bit of
Very
spark
self-deprecating. We like that too.
around the footy club.
Nothing springing to mind
No
for
sledge.
the best sledge.
You're not sledging someone who's as big as Tom.
No, but he could have witnessed it.
Yeah, you
They're
can.
funnier when they hear.
Ruckman
Yeah.
always trying to concentrate on the next stoppage or the
Oh,
catching their breath,
that's exactly
ready
what
to
I
go
was
again.
doing, to
So
be honest.
you know,
Yeah,
whereas the little fellas are always
They can carry
fighting
on.
at each other.
And the final one was going to be favourite footy trip, but I think Croatia might be. Does it count as a footy trip? I don't know if it does
don't
if it's mid-year.
well, it was very similar to a footy trip, so it's
So footy takes you in great
does.
spaces, doesn't it? And
does.
to all different places. So you know, what's a couple? Yeah,
Vegas are probably the ones that stand out.
you can remember Vegas.
Well, I actually caught up with one of the boys yesterday, and we were having a laugh, and we went to.
So is this all the players going, or
Yeah,
is this
so-
a handful of players went to Vegas?
So my first trip to Vegas was, I think it was 2011, and we had 35 blokes in Vegas.
Oh,
So that
gee.
was
wow.
that was an eye opener. That was a good trip. Dyson Heppel was an 18-year-old. He
Boy from Gippsland,
yeah.
you from Tasmania.
Tassie.
Next thing you're
We're
in
in
rocking
Vegas.
Vegas.
Hep
Where
got-
did you stay?
We were at the first one. I think we were at the Palazzo.
Yep.
Then we stayed at the Wynn a couple of times over there as well. But yeah, I think my first one I had in Vegas I had 35, and then the last one in Vegas I had 4 blokes. So they footy trips were kind of dwindling over the time. But Vegas are the ones that stand out. My first footy trip was Cairns. Lloydie and Scotty Earl and those blokes. That was their last trip, so that was an amazing one that stood out for me.
Yep.
Partnered with the older bloke on the first day, so some really good memories. Jace Johnson was my partner on the first day, so you learn a lot about blokes on footy trips, and they're a great time to obviously reflect on the season, and good fun.
So what did you do in Vegas though? Like, did you just hang around the pool? Did you go to
went to some-
nightclubs,
went to
or did
some-
you go, sightseeing, Grand Canyon?
I didn't see the Grand Canyon whilst I was there. I didn't see any Broadway productions or anything like that. There was no. It was more.
Who was best on ground? Is there anyone that's a clear standard, just full of entertainment and just the life of the party?
Michael Hibbard was very good.
Michael Hibbard.
Michael Hibbard was very good.
The
He's-
Frankston boy.
The Frankston boy. He was born for somewhere like Vegas, I think, Hibbo. So he's one that stands out. Woosha was good anywhere he went. So Andrew Welsh was, he was those older blokes, Mark McVeigh and Andrew Welsh, who've been been there a few times before, obviously, and they kind of teach you the younger blokes the ropes, and then you get to the stage where you're teaching Zachy Merritt and these kind of guys the ropes when they go over. So it's a great time, and some of the best memories, as you'd know, Crawf, were made on those trips, and the bonds and the relationships that you make off the field, I think, make it only stronger on the field.
Yeah, and you're talking a Cobden boy, a Tasmanian boy. It's amazing what footy does, bring everyone together from all walks of life, and you're going to have friends for life as well.
Yeah, certainly, and that's probably one of the best things about football, the people that you meet along the way. And unfortunately, I was never in a successful team where we played finals or won grand finals like yourself, but the one thing that I do take away from my football career is the relationships and the people that you do make and meet along the way. Is just I certainly wouldn't have got those opportunities, I don't think, if I wasn't playing football. So I'm extremely grateful for that.
And those unusual situations that you were in, the bond's probably going to be stronger than any other football club.
Yeah.
Because of what you went through, and
I
you
think-
did it together, and you had each other. So, you're going to have that for the rest of your life. You're going to have to invite them to your wedding.
Yeah.
They're going to have to watch your wedding dance.
Oh,
and, you're going to have the time of your life, which is great. Moving forward, you'll have kids and, go on and have some wonderful times.
Exactly. And some of my dancing moves over in Croatia, if I can pull them out at the wedding, I'll be happy.
Tom, you've been sensational. Thanks so much for having a chat today. Best of luck going forward.
Thanks, guys. Cheers. Thanks for having me.